What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of Games Up podcast. My name is Cameron, and I am 1/3 of your hosts of this show. Thank you very much for joining us. Let's start, as we do every week, with the news. Some of it, the news that you might have missed. And one of those pieces of news is that the latest entry in the Fable series has been delayed. Fable Fortune. Now, this is a trading card game, much in the style of Hearthstone or Gwent. Not a massive piece of news. I don't know that there's many people really sort of holding out or queuing up to pre-order this one, but it is the latest in a series of delays and cancellations with the Fable series, and maybe another indication that Microsoft is having trouble with this franchise. It's a real disappointment to see that they're delaying a game of this scale as well in this franchise, although better that they delay something which is good than put out something that's rushed and not good. We've seen that happen before. So always be on the side of delays. A shame, though, that they're having, or seeming to have, so much trouble with the Fable franchise. It's not a massive delay. It's only been delayed to July 25th, so you're still getting it this month, and you are still not having to wait too much longer for it. Just a little piece of tidbit news there. Maybe keep your eye on Fable for the next few years. Hopefully Microsoft can sort of redeem themselves with it. Not that they have anything to redeem, as it were, but just a shame that they're having so many issues with it. The second piece of news this week is that the Chiliad mystery has had another step forward. Last week, a couple of weeks ago, we mentioned that threads had been found in the code by the Chiliad mystery hunters. We'll link to that episode. It was a couple of weeks ago. Really, really fascinating if you're interested. That seemed to show an alien crash site and all sorts of weird things in GTA. Well, it turned out it was absolutely real. It's absolutely genuine, and you can, in fact, find it and trigger it in the game. There's been lots of sites reporting on it over the last week, so you probably haven't missed it if you are tuned into GTA. Specifically GTA Online, but there may still be stuff coming out of it as those hunters continue to delve into the code and see what kind of longer reaching effects this has on the game and any of the content that might be coming up for it. So keep your eyes peeled to the Chiliad mystery, and if you feel so inclined, go over there and watch the mission that they found where you pick up the alien egg as a supply drop, because to get it in the game you'll have to do 600 DLC missions. Now, all the DLC for GTA Online is free, so it's doable. It's totally doable, but 600 of them is a lot, especially as you can only do them one every 5 minutes. So I've currently got 3 under my belt, so 600 is a long, long way away. Might be better to watch this one online and see what kind of changes it makes in the future, and if those changes affect you. But it turned out to absolutely be a thing, which is awesome because the Chiliad mystery has been going on for a long while, and it's really cool to see that come to something. And it may still be a thing going forward, so keep your eyes peeled to that one. The third and final piece of news this week is the reveal of Doomfist, Overwatch's latest hero, a really, really awesome looking hero who hails to Overwatch from Nigeria, who is based a lot on movement rather than kind of damage or anything like that. He has a lot of punch movements and uppercut movements that fling him into the sky. Interestingly, somebody leaked a great deal of the details of Doomfist in March, which is a long time ago. That's actually nearly around the time that we got the last hero, Orisa. So, yeah, Doomfist is out. He looks really, really great to play. It looks like he's going to add a lot to the game. As somebody who is still following Overwatch, I can't wait to get my hands on him. Really interesting that the person who leaked it in March was actually seemingly being legitimate, and maybe we should pay attention to that person going forward. Although I'm not going to name them here, because naming leakers always seems a little bit kind of dodge. So if you want to go out and find that person and find the details that they leaked, feel free to, and maybe keep your eyes peeled to them. If not, can totally understand why. And that is your news for the week. Now, here is the topic of the week. This past week saw the release of Spider-Man Homecoming, which by all accounts is a very good film. My review comes out tomorrow, if you're at all interested. But it means that although the film has just released, the next thing we have to look forward to with the web slinger is the PS4 game, and I would like to raise an issue with it. I've seen a huge amount of praise being thrown around recently for the gameplay demo that we saw revealed at E3. But as you may be able to remember from our reactions, I was less than impressed with the gameplay demo, and I'm actually even less than impressed now that we've had some time to reflect on it. In fact, I'm quite worried about what we saw of the PlayStation 4 Spider-Man game. Now, if you're interested or really happy about what you saw, that's great, and I hope it turns out to be that good. The more good Spider-Man games, the better for everyone involved. But I'm a little worried about what we saw, and a little worried for a couple of reasons. We've been told on many occasions that this game has been designed from the ground up to be the latest Spider-Man game, that Insomniac have developed these systems themselves and they've built everything to work and play and look and display and generally be as perfect as possible. But I'm not sure that I agree here. A lot of the things that we see in the gameplay demo seem like they're holdovers of previous Spider-Man games. We've seen things like the focus mode, where Spider-Man can pick out specific points and jump to them with his webs, as well as free-flowing webs. We've seen quick-time combat and quick-time button-mash takedowns, so that there's a kind of stealthy side to it and an Arkham-style combat side to it. But again, a lot of these seem like holdovers from previous Spider-Man games. If you look at the way The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which was the last Spider-Man game released before this, plays, a lot of the things seem similar, the way that he can web focus from point to point, the silent takedowns that are activated with a button, the environmental takedowns, which actually Arkham then interestingly went on to copy to some extent, but that's the topic for another day. A lot of these look like they're not new. In fact, it looks like Insomniac has copied something that was there before. Now, I'm not trying to point fingers. The reason this makes me worry is that I don't believe that Insomniac are lying. I don't believe that they haven't built these systems. I don't believe that they haven't built this game to work as well as possible. What I believe is that they've built their own version of these systems. I believe that they've gone out of their way to build their own versions of a game that was generally considered functional, if not amazing. The reason this has me worried is because of all the Spider-Man games to copy, why copy that one? Spider-Man 2 on the PlayStation 2 is considered one of the best games ever made. It's considered certainly one of the best superhero games ever made, and probably the greatest movie tie-in game ever made. It's generally, critically, and in terms of the fans, incredibly well received. And the other Spider-Man games have been trying to catch up to it for a very long time. The Amazing Spider-Man games, when those movies were released, were trying to ape that style, and it seems weird to me that Insomniac would be trying to copy the style of a game that was in itself trying to copy the style of a game. I worry that Insomniac haven't been given a huge amount of time for this. Spider-Man has had a pretty tumultuous few years, with him being handed over by Sony after some leaked stuff that was, less than lovely, and then his kind of rushed inclusion into the MCU, his sudden recasting, and that's got to have had an effect on the video games. You've got to imagine that there was some kind of contract in place for the Spider-Man cinematic universe that Sony had planned and didn't get round to finishing. What I wonder is how much time have Insomniac actually had to develop this game, and how much freedom has that allowed them to decide what goes into this game and how it plays like. Is Insomniac seemingly copying the style of the games before because they think that's what makes a perfect Spider-Man game, or because they haven't had a huge amount of time to design a new system for themselves? Perhaps the Spider-Man game that we get in 2018 is amazing and plays fantastically, and all my criticisms are unfounded, and I really, really hope that is the case. And believe me, there are some things that I'm super positive about with this game. I'm really, really impressed that they've included Miles Morales in some form, even if it's not in a deep form, even if it's just in a kind of passing way. I'm really, really impressed that they're paying that much detail to the comics and to the fan service. But I do worry about how the game plays and how that will reflect on the franchise going forward. Spider-Man is a beloved character, and there are lots and lots of fans who want to see a game with him done well, so I would rather that it be given the time it needs to get those systems working and to get the game properly developed. Now, for all I know, that's exactly what's happened, and I'm talking out of my arse. But my spider sense is going off, and it's making me think that this looks a little more rushed than perhaps it should do. So that's it for this week. A super quick episode of Games Up because there's not a huge amount happening in games right now, and the episode we had planned, again, because of a few time commitments, couldn't quite happen. We promise it will happen soon. But other than that, thank you very much for joining us. If you liked what you heard here, please consider dropping us a subscribe so that you don't miss an episode when we put it live at 6:30 on a Monday evening or earlier that day on iTunes so that you can catch it on your way to work. We'd also super appreciate if you like the show on YouTube or iTunes, if you like our page on Facebook or Twitter, so that we can get out in front of a few more people, because that would be great, and so that you can see everything we post and be involved in the conversations, because that would also be great. Thanks very much. Have a great week. We'll see you next week, and until then, the game's up.